This is insane and desperate, even for you.
Well, insanely desperate's where we are, don't you think, though?
Compound B?
That doesn't sound good, Ashley. Well, you know shit, actually. Sorry, Ashley.
Bees?
Welcome back to Compound B, a show about the boys. I am Jamie G, Esquire the Fifth, sleeveless. Once again, I am here with the Soupdeucer and Magnum Mills to talk about the boys. We're talking about Wisdom of the Ages, Season 4, Episode 4. Guys, I'm doing okay. I just got back. I played almost 9 hours of poker. Feeling pretty good. Excited to talk about this one. And Soup, I don't know. You weren't you a paper football champion back in the day? Was that you?
Well, I did my share of flicking paper footballs through random goalposts, a little finger goalpost back in the day. Yeah. Pretty solid at that one, man, but yeah, man, it's been a while since I did that. I've been flicking more beans than footballs lately, but it is what it is, man.
What happens when you have a dual job that brings you to the kitchen and the bedroom?
Yeah, that's right.
What do you order? Extra anchovies? Is that the key word? I forget how that works.
Yeah.
Well,
Loverboy. Shout out Loverboy. Go watch that movie.
Extra
Young
anchovies.
Patrick Dempsey.
See, I'm Magnum Mills. I missed out on all of that fun shit when I was young due to a lawn darts incident. So be careful with those. A lot of fun, but luckily you are not missing out on Compound B, a show about the boys presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find us wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff, at Compound B Pod. Find us on the web at Dudes Watch Stuff. Thanks for remembering that. While you're at it, please don't forget the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. All we ask, had fun. Please remember the thumb. It to us, it's like a shot of V right in the arm. Big deal. Super appreciate it. Please and thank you.
Well, and heads up, 7-Up here. You should know that Compound B is, in fact, a full-on spoiler affair. All aired episodes of The Boys, Gen V, and Diabolical. Shout out Diabolical. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Ton of fun. They all could come up in our discussion. And that's basically it. You have been warned, and we're ready. Ready to rock!
Let's do this thing!
This is Wisdom of the Ages, Season 4, Episode 4, the 28th overall episode of The Boys, originally released June 20th, 2024. Directed by Phil Sgrija. This is the 6th episode of The Boys that he has directed. He also directed the Season 4 premiere. Written by Joff All. This is his second written by credit on The Boys following Barbary Coast. That was Season 3, Episode 3. Special guest stars include Will Ferrell as Will Ferrell, Simon Pegg as Hugh Camp Sr., Rosemary DeWitt as Daphne Campbell, Chantel Van Satin as Becca Butcher. Guest starring Nancy Lenahan as Barbara, Elliot Knight as Colin, Derek Wilson as Tech Knight, Kimberly Sue Murray as Kiara, Sean Benson as Ezekiel, Matthew Edison as Cameron Coleman, Erica Freebos as Tala, Rory Furrow as Martin, and Jim Beaver as Robert Singer. The plot synopsis is Homelander takes a trip down memory lane while Firecracker sets up shop across from the Starlight House, leading to an explosive confrontation. Huey and Kimiko send A-Train on a mission to get Compound V for Huey's dad. A-Train comes through, but not before Huey and Kimiko are ambushed by the Shining Light. Frenchie comes clean to Colin, and it goes about as well as you'd expect. Butcher is still experiencing side effects from the 10 V, and we learn that he tried to cure himself with regular V, but had no success. Huey decides not to give his dad the Compound V, but his mom does it anyways. And here's a shocker, and last time we see him in the episode, Billy Butcher and the Homelander are both covered in blood.
But it is time to get into the 7. Up first, at number 1, we've got our overall thoughts here on Wisdom of the Ages. I thought it was really cool. I like how they took Homelander out of the mix of the 7 and gave him his own thing. It was a really cool way. We didn't get like a flashback Homelander, but I really like what we got. It was super intense. Tying it all together with the elevator, both on his way in and his way out. Super cool. But then you got all the other action going on with the rest of the gang here. So I thought this was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I was a little confused at 1 or 2 parts here. We'll talk about it. But overall, I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more, dude. This episode was solid, dude. I mean, it was edge of your seat from beginning to end, man. I mean, I'll probably say this every week, but it was my favorite so far this season, and that's usually how a show like this goes. The next one is like, oh, that was the best one, yeah, that was the best one, yeah. But this one, I think at the end of the day, even when it all wraps up, is going to be right there in that top tier of episodes for season 4 here.
I will concur with what both of y'all are saying. Very solid. It always feels like this happens a little bit. You get the first three, and then you get the fourth one, and you're like, boy, I wonder if the first couple play differently if you have a week to think about them. I do wonder sometimes, especially for people maybe who watch after the fact, a year or two from now, they're checking out for the first time. Maybe it plays a little bit differently as a complete binge, but I always wonder with those first three if we're not a little bit just screwed up because you're finally getting the boys back and it happens everywhere all at once. And that was kind of a nice thing in this episode. It wasn't everywhere all at once. It was spread out. Some of the plot lines did cross over nicely. Definitely surprised me a couple times, and I mean that in a good way. Cool callback to the comic. Not the entire backstory for Homelander, but I would say it does fill in some of his motivation and gives you a little bit of an idea about how Vought thought they would control him. It turns out that the real weapon was psychological, which probably makes sense if he really is as invulnerable as he appears to be. It also makes him even a little bit more intimidating that it seems like they've really tried every way they could to kill him. Like he came out of the womb this tough. So it also adds a little bit to that too. And the fact that he is probably legitimately cuckoo and he's been driven that way intentionally, which is like almost worse than just being naturally, fruitier than Fruit Loops or whatever. So yeah, good time. Really like this one. Good stuff overall. I think we are all giving it the thumbs and whatnot.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's funny that you say cuckoo because in a way, this episode almost in some weird way made me think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, between the backstories there and the lobotomy and everything else. So it did have
I thought I saw steam coming out of Homelander's ears in my defense at one point, just like in the bug, his face is turning red, the steam's coming out, you can hear the kettle. There was a little bit of that going on under the surface, and God is Anthony Starr good at that.
Yes, he is. Well, at number 2 of the 7, we've got Homelander's Stroll Down Memory Lane. This is probably as close to an origin story for Homelander as we'll get, but what did you guys think? I mean, I thought it was a really interesting way to give some of his background here, and they did it allowing him to thrive in those intense, just twisted moments that he seems to have more and more of every season.
Yeah, man, I totally agree, dude. I mean, I really like the way they did the Homelander backstory here without having it be like flashbacks or it more through his just hey, remember this, and it was more of him telling it, and you don't even need a visual because you get it. So I think it was very well played, man.
My only real complaint was the fact that when they opened with that shot of the elevator, just being who I am, I remembered the shot we hadn't seen from the trailers yet of Homelander in the elevator covered in blood. So I knew the end point.
Uh,
I hate that my brain works that way, but as soon as because they focus right on that elevator when it comes down, and I'm like, oh, because that shot from I'm like, dude, this is gonna 100%, it's gonna probably end. I would have been more surprised if it all happened quick and that scene happened, a third of the way through the episode and not at the end. But they did keep ratcheting up the tension, right? Because on some level, if I hadn't known that, I would have thought maybe there's a chance this works out okay, right? Maybe he really did have a genuine connection to these people, and he was really bringing them the Fudgy the Whale because he was really like them or whatever. But of course, it's Homelander, so that doesn't last as long. But there's a couple of good points he makes there, like the idea that two people can remember the exact same event different ways, right? Like he's in there getting cooked in an oven, and all the talk about that was brutal. Seeing Frank get cooked is brutal. But the idea that it was so routine for these people that he's just, in the background shooting waste paper baskets, just all right, let's turn the temp up and see if it hurts anymore. Like, man, that is just growing up. I mean, that's wild, and especially when Homelander says, like, it still hurt.
They really ratcheted the intensity up one over one, and and again, it's like you wanted to kind of believe Homelander at first, and they did an interesting job of making you feel just slightly bad for him. But then obviously he's so evil that you can't, but then you wonder why. It created more complexity around his character, and I think that's really cool. It was a fun way of doing it. We've seen them dabble. Sometimes, I mean, just go way back. You could have saw a young Homelander. That could have been cool too. But for me, I like how they did this.
Because it's a progression, right? You start with Frank in the oven, and then it's Marty and calling him Squirt. And Squirt's not that uncommon of a nickname, right? For a child or something or whatever, like playing Little League or something. All right, Squirt. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't think that would be derogatory. And then, where the story goes where it does. And again, you feel a little bit of sympathy for Homelander, right? Especially because he points out something we hear, kind of a Firecracker say the stage later in the episode. Oh, Marty, you were one of the good ones, for the most part or whatever. It gives you a little bit of sympathy for Homelander. I'm not going to lie. In that moment, you feel like maybe he would have had a chance. Of course, you hear later, like, he killed his mom on the way out and a couple of doctors and nurses while he was at it. By the time he was, 5 minutes old, he already had a body count. So maybe it was always just going to be that way. But they certainly didn't help matters treating him this way. And from Marty's standpoint, how dumb is that? Knowing how powerful that kid is, you really going to make fun of him? I could see the Frank shooting the basketball in the background thing, not really thinking about it. But Marty making fun of a kid like that to his face, especially when they all know he really could break out of there if he wanted to. That just seems Marty was not the brightest bulb.
It does, but all due respect to Marty here, the thing is, I don't know that he had a malicious intent with it. I think it was just kind of like cracking I don't know. He was like pointing fingers, like you, nah, like I think it was just more kind of, it was funny probably,
Oh,
and
right.
they all
Marty was
probably had
younger then too, right? Marty might have been, this is what, almost 20 years ago. So Marty might have been more like in his late 20s or something, 30s, early 30s.
But it's interesting how Homelander remembers it, which is the sin, like with it being so mean and so all that kind of stuff towards him. So I really enjoyed that. Again, more complexity to the character.
And again, it goes back to he just can't feel joy, right? He said it's the only time he would ever feel good. And that's still what he's going for now. And that sets up the whole scene with Barbara where she breaks it down for him. And she's like, you could have left anytime you wanted. You could have killed us all. You didn't. And we basically tried to engineer it so that you needed love so bad. You needed our acceptance that you would do what we asked just because you needed that from us. And now they have created this bottomless black hole in him, which by design can never be filled. So not a lot of good places that can go.
No, there's not. It kind of excites you. Where will Homelander be his own demise? Will he go absolutely mad and just just destroy, or just end Earth? Like, it's a crazy thing, man. I mean, they go a lot of different ways with it. I'm excited. Let's move on. At number 3 of the 7, we've got Annie and Firecracker. Both got hit with skeletons from their closets, and Firecracker literally got hit by Annie at least a dozen times on a live simulcast. Mills, I think an ass whooping is what she got. Did anything about the way this play out surprise you at all, or did you feel like these two trains were going to collide here?
Probably, I guess. Let me just ask you, do you think both of y'all, was this exactly what Sage had planned? She gave the revelation to Firecracker. You see, you're sitting there watching it. We had the big scene talking about the social media and stuff. Do you think this is like going according to plan? Like she knew it was going to end with Starlight beating the piss out of Firecracker while the camera guy films it, right? Because MM explicitly points to him, and you get the idea he was told, like, wait for this to happen and make sure you get it or something like that, right? So I'm saying it was part of the plan. What do y'all think? Just curious.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with that, man. I mean, she's trying to design this whole shit anyway and articulate it and have it play out a certain way, and she's manipulating things so that it is working out that way, man. So it's the grand scheme of things, man. She's the architect.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's, even though it's a strange design, and it is, she is the smartest person on earth. So we kind of have to believe that that's the case, that she knew all this was going to be. And again, not a big fan of the big brain we talked about in the first episode. Like I just, the two new people in the 7, to me, another episode in, I still don't love it. Neither one of them are, it's just hard to feel good about either of their superpowers. So I don't know. But yes, no, to answer your question, I think she did.
To that end, Firecracker herself didn't seem to be in on the plan. Do you think that she like let herself get beat that badly by Annie, or is just she outclassed that hard? Like you mentioned it, like she's kind of weak, like in her power set or whatever. Did she kind of realize what was happening and just let it happen, or did she just get the piss beat out of her because she just ain't that tough compared to Starlight?
I think she just got the shit beat out of her, dude.
I still don't know what her super power is.
She
I
said
still
she's
don't
tough and strong, right? Like she was tough and
She could
strong.
like,
That's what
I
she
thought
said
I
to
saw a
Sage,
thing where
but
she could like
Yeah,
could
but
like
she said
start
in addition to that, and we see that some of them, like that's Kamiko, right? She's pretty much just tough and strong and regenerates. So I guess there is some of that, but
we've seen Kamiko in action to the point where it's clear she is a soup. It's not with Firecracker to me, and she just straight up got her ass beat. I don't know. I think she's clearly manipulated by Sage.
yeah, and it's hard to tell exactly how powerful Annie is too. They've been all over the place a little bit on that. What did you think about the revelations that we get themselves? The first one, and I really like this one. We'll talk about firecrackers first. Is Butcher goes through the whole thing. They get the intel, and she whatever was hooking up with a 15-year-old boy when and it's the whole thing. Of course, she's calling out pedophiles. She technically was statutory raping a boy, and then instead of giving in to Butcher, she tweets it herself. What did you think about that? I thought that was pretty ballsy. And that was one of the first points of the episode where I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was interesting that they go there. It makes a lot of sense because they're the boys. What did y'all think about that twist? Soup?
Man, I immediately thought, holy shit, and I know that I don't know. I hate to say that in a weird way. Maybe Firecracker's got some kind of intelligence because she seems like such a fucking
She at least knows her audience, right? She knew
yeah.
that
She
she had
knows the
the
audience, and
revelation, so maybe she could do a
yeah,
little
but yeah,
sandwich.
very very ballsy move there, and it took her a second to think about it, and then she's like, all right, at this point, I just have to go for it. And she did, so I will give her, props on balls for that one. I'll give her ball props on that one, man, and she played it the way, in that position, she probably should have played it if she wanted to do something like that. I mean, I hate that character. I think she is a absolute piece of fucking garbage, but she, I mean, if you're playing that role and doing what you're doing, then she played that card the right way.
Yeah, the actress is definitely killing because I'm pretty sure we're supposed to hate her. What do you think, Jamie G? Did that surprise you? Did you like the move? Did it make sense?
I thought it was the right move for her, and for the first time during this whole thing, I kind of was like, "Ooh, well played, Firecracker,"
Right.
because she's just been taking the low hanging fruit, throwing bloody meat to a rabid fan base that wants to hear these radical, extreme, crazy conspiracy, fire stoking, the whole thing. So I think that this was her first real smart move, and it worked.
Well, it helped because she get a double barrel on Starlight, right? So she comes, she drops her thing, then she drops the first Starlight revelation that she blinded a hostage during her first save when she was 13, and then sandwiches that with the Starlight had an abortion a few months ago. That's why she got away with it, right? Because now there's two things against Annie, so no one's even talking about her thing anymore. So that was kind of brilliant on her part. It surprised me a little bit that it seemed like over at the Starlight House, everyone was kind of giving her the side eye when they heard about her blinding someone during her first rescue when she was 13. I mean, I would think that's really, would you really blame? I mean, they're a 13-year-old kid trying to save people. Like, what?
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit much that her people would maybe kind of like look at her like that way all of a sudden. Like that surprised me more. Like the abortion thing I thought was pretty straightforward. It made sense given what Firecracker is, preaching to the evangelicals and that kind of thing. I was just a little bit more surprised that, the revelation that Starlight just, legitimately injured someone trying to help them, it was such a big deal kind of.
Yeah, me too. It's like, and that's not even. It's like, really, you guys are supposed to be ride or die, and you're like worried about that. When it's totally like, yeah, that was you. Of course, poor you. You should be sympathizing with her. Not, yeah. I was surprised by that too, Mills.
Yeah, it's one of those things when they don't flesh it out enough. It seems like, oh, Vought was covering that up. But back in season one, like it didn't seem like, Vought had that big of influence on Annie's life that they would be covering stuff up for her or stuff like that. So it's just one of those things that just bothered me a little bit more than it should. And at this point, you have to think the whole Starlight House thing is in trouble, right? Because the president's done with Annie now. It seems like the people who work for her have lost confidence. No way a lot of donations are coming in. She might be forked, right?
Having the president elect, you know, move off of her. Now this thing is, out with her beating Firecracker's ass. It's pushing everything towards kind of, I hate to use the word civil war, but you know what I mean? This two sides just polarizing, hating each other even more. I think she's in trouble here. I mean, clearly, and it's going to take her doing something, and she's already been tested. She had to do something in the first episode to kind of regain a little bit of leverage here. And now she's right back in the same situation, but almost worse in terms of where she is. So tough times for Starlight.
It really is, and that gives you the idea that Sage is coming through into play. She was, first pebble down the hill. We heard her say that before, and it is what it is. And I will say that the one thing that I did very much like, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the abortion plot, but I like the fact that Huey knew. I thought that they were going to play that for the emotional drama. We went through that with those two last season. I like that he was new. He was in on it. He knew, he was comfortable with it, and that really wasn't an issue. So I have no problem with that. I was worried they were going to use that to create more drama for the sake of drama, and I like that they didn't go that route.
Agreed. Here we are, number 4 of the 7. Let's do a little redemption song because A Train finally manages to gain Huey's forgiveness by scoring him some compound V. After a talk from Butcher, Huey resists the temptation to give his dad the V, but his mom, she did not. Guys, what did you think about Huey's mom giving the V to his dad? I'm just going to say, in the moment, there was so much going on in this episode, and I was so caught up with so many things, I didn't really realize what was happening and why it was in there. It just happened kind of abruptly and fast. And it was just kind of, so it was a little bit of confusion. I mean, obviously I figured it out. Okay, it must have been the mom, but I knew there was going to be something with the mom. I think this is clearly the segue into whatever that is, but I almost wish we would have saw it, you know?
They set it up a touch because you see him put it in his jacket pocket when she walks in, and then he puts the jacket on a chair and walks out. And she looks at it kind of funny, just in a way that you kind of, after you watch TV for a while, you're trained to be like, that was weird. And then he's out in the hallway getting in the vending machine, and he's out there for long enough that I did look away for a second the first time I watched it. And then you miss a shot where through the IV, you see the actual blue of the V go in, and then she looks at it, and then you notice that Huey's jacket is now on the foot of the bed instead of on the chair. So it's all there in context, but it's real easy to miss the first time because all of that takes place in about 10 seconds. So if you just happen to look away and miss that, then the IV goes clean again, and then you just kind of see him waking up. So the first time I missed the IV shot, same way as you kind of, and I was like, oh, but I figured she gave it to her anyways. But the way
I saw the IV go blue. I just didn't put it together any of the chess pieces or any of the puzzle pieces with the coat and this and that. Like it was a lot to kind of put together. It happened so fast. And it was just at a point in this episode where so much had gone on where you're just like trying to still unpack all of it. So I missed it, but look, it's another interesting thing, I think, with the character of his mom. And this is going to create more, if the dad just dies, and then the mom just goes away, it's like, okay, well, we just did all that for nothing. We got 4 episodes out of it. Huey's giving Huey something. So it needed to continue here. This will clearly take it through, obviously, probably for the rest of the season.
Yeah. The only thing I have to say about this, man, is that that's pretty fucking sloppy on Huey's part, dude. If you're carrying around something like Compound V, you don't leave it unattended, man.
You're not wrong. That is a valid point. And he might have just forgot that it was in his jacket pocket. You know what I mean? He took the jacket off. You are right, though. That should be at least.
You're telling me a crackhead is going to leave his shit like in his jacket?
You shouldn't leave your phone or your wallet in your jacket like that when you leave your jacket unattended. You're definitely not wrong in that aspect. Let me ask you, Sue, because I think Jamie G might think this. Do you think there's anything more to his mom than meets the eye? Like, how does she know that the V was there, right? Does she have some kind of shadier background? We know that she kind of works for Vaught in a limited way. Is there any chance that we find out more backstory about what she's been doing, the past 20 years or something, and it's kind of connected to Vaught?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I kind of expect it as something I would, we could get into this when we get to predictions and whatnot, but I expect there to be a lot more to unfold with, with that character.
How about you, Jamie G? I thought that's where you were going with this, but
oh yeah,
is that right?
I think there's something else there, and I think there's something sinister. I didn't buy her bullshit sob story why she left. I definitely think there's something else here that's going to unravel over the next couple episodes.
And as far as the other Huey stuff, I think there were a couple of steps along the road to him not giving his dad the V. I think the first one was probably him getting in that fight. We've never really seen Huey kill, like he's killed Translucent, right? And he killed when he was on the 10th V, but it was accidental. This was the first time he legitimately brutally killed somebody. I like kind of how they hobbled him with the ankle so he couldn't run away because that's kind of his whole deal. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you can't win a fight, there's no point fighting a fight that you can't win. But it was pretty brutal to see him have to kill that guy the way he did with the box cutter, the razor, and whatnot. And then even at the end, there was a little bit of that audio feedback you hear sometimes with Homelander, and I think that probably led him to maybe forgiving A Train, which I did like. I really like that scene where A Train gives him the V and he's like, "You're not going to forgive me anyways." He's like, "You know what? I wasn't, but I changed my mind." And he shakes his hand. How did you like that, Jamie? Did you agree with Huey kind of ultimately forgiving A Train there? Did he do enough to make up for killing Robin, or as close as you can for killing
I
somebody?
think
You know what
I
I
don't
mean?
know. He's never going to be able to, but I think the effort was there, and the fact that he knew the real reason why, and actually felt a form of sympathy for a human. I think all that coupled with everything right now just has, you know, I think so, man. I think it's about as best you can do.
Well, especially because remember when A Train gave the footage to Huey and Annie. It was
Yeah.
Annie who told him, like, I would have, gone out there and jumped your ass. It was Huey that said, he's with his family and let him slide a little bit. So I think it's one of those things where every little bit kind of all comes together. I think they're definitely going for the A Train redemption arc a little bit. I would say, dude, get yourself a couple of burner phones or something. Do not just be having like your primary phone when you're a spy like that. And I guess this is probably as good of a place as any to also mention just A Train up in Homelander's apartment. That was cool. We saw some of that in the trailers. That was our only OG Ashley scene of the episode, I think, too. That was a good one. The floater was a pretty weak clapback. She was going off Cameron Coleman's suggestion. You couldn't leave an upper decker
That's
at
what I
least.
was
I
gonna
mean,
say, man. Yeah, an upper decker would have been way cooler, man.
in Homelander might, especially because Homelander, like, we know he can smell people, right? So he's gonna know it's
Yeah.
Ashley.
Right.
That was not a
I know
well thought out plan for your CEO.
I love that she denies it.
it was there when I got here, man.
It was there when I got here, and how funny was it to see? I feel like snooping around Homelander's house is like very terrifying. It's like you never know what you're gonna. I mean, come on. At one point, you're seeing the jar of gray pubes, then a secret stash of baby milk. Like
The jar of grape pubes is next to the picture of the Nazi chick too.
that's so wild.
Yeah, all the milk and everything like that. And I guess the other scene we should mention is when A Train gives Huey the V and then Butcher comes out of the shadows. Both because I think it's a cool scene. I think it's what solidifies Huey not giving the V to his dad. And it tells us Butcher did the obvious thing, right? He tried to use V to cure himself. I kept saying that, I said that with Huey's dad because in this universe, wouldn't you try to use V? I thought that would make a lot of sense. And for me, this just kind of clears up a plot hole. And it seems like, of course, Butcher would say that, right? Like, you don't kill somebody by making them into something like we're fighting against.
But isn't Butcher this way because of the temp V?
Yes, but now he's onto something else. Well,
So that's where I was kind of just like, to me, it was like, I didn't, it didn't really make that much sense to me because it's like, well, dude, you're dying because of the temp V.
right, be like
So you
curing
went and
cancer
tried
with
V.
cancer, kind of. Right. It might not necessarily make a lot of sense. The disease shouldn't be the cure.
Right. So
Those are completely different bands.
they are completely different bands.
Did mention before that Huey had that pretty brutal fight. We should probably talk about Kamiko, who was on the other side of it. Dude, the scene of her getting split in half with a grenade launcher was wild, right? 'Cause I'm pretty
Dude,
sure
Yeah.
completely in half. I think like half.
dude, those were all intestines. Her spine split in half, and all of her guts were out. That was nuts, dude. So, and Huey's reaction was so good. We don't give these actors and actresses enough credit because it's just so good and it's been so good for so long. But when Huey sees her and he's like, "Holy shit!" It was like, because imagine seeing that as a human. I think we lose sight of it because of all the crazy things the show has done over the seasons. But like, if you're a human and you see somebody get hit with a grenade launcher and literally get split in half, it's terrible to look at. It's not something you want to see. It's a bad day,
Right. Yeah.
So I thought Huey was great with that. But dude, nuts, absolutely nuts seeing that. What do you guys feel about the storyline in general, though? The girl with the scar on the face, that whole thing. Is this going to continue to happen, or
There's definitely something there. And one thing I did want to say is Kimiko has gotten the absolute shit kicked out. I don't want to say shit kicked out of her, but she has been basically ripped into pieces almost, every episode so far. She's taken a lot of abuse, like going into like 4 episodes now, I mean, so that's pretty noteworthy, man.
Yeah, she gets killed basically every
Dude, she's
episode like
lost her
5
powers and
times.
regained her powers too. Like she's had a
Yeah.
whole dude, she's a little bit more flexible. That's kind of one of the things from the comics, just minor spoilers. Like in the comics, all of the boys are kind of V'd up. Like they're not full on Homelander strong, but they're like somewhere between like I'd call them like a not quite a mid-range soup, but between like a low end soup and a like they're all just generally a little bit stronger, faster, they heal better or whatever. So that lets them survive a little bit more, which is why I thought maybe they would do a little bit more of that with the 10V. But here Kamiko is the only one that's legitimately V'd up. So I mean, they keep maybe every time, right? You get destroyed, you build back stronger again, or something like that. I don't know, maybe something like that. So they're trying to build her up. So maybe I don't know, she can get a shot at Homelander, but she could help probably.
Do you guys think this mistakes from the past is going to be a runner for basically every character of the boys somehow, some way?
Yeah, it's definitely
Feels like it a little bit, right? I mean, you had
At
MM
least
with
ghosts
the
of the past, call because you have like Huey's mom. Like you have the
right.
Kamiko thing. You have Frenchie killing Colin's family. You have
Feels like it,
Butcher
right?
with just his whole life, really.
Right.
MM with his yes, 100%. I think that's what they're going for.
it's
This is kind of
sprinkled
the
all over the fucking shit, dude. It's there, man.
might even be sprinkled over. It might be in, dude. It's the ricotta in
Yeah.
the lasagna. It's just
It's,
layered
it's
in
well
between the
seasoned with
various
yeah, well seasoned with Ghosts of the Forest, man.
Yeah.
Goes to the forest and the goat of the cheese or whatever.
Yeah. And I fear I never told you the story of the ghost. Moving on to number 5 of the 7, we need to pay homage to The Departed.
Soul and the souls of all.
RIP Ezekiel. If God doesn't want you, maybe just try Jerry Jones or the devil. It doesn't matter. They share an office. Let's talk about the boys breaking into Firecracker's trailer and everything associated with that, starting with a heroin enema. What were we looking at there? That was odd.
Well, no, that's what Butcher's talking about. That's how that they got the dirt on Firecracker, and this reminds me a ton of remember the Diabolical episode, the animated one with the drugs and the soup, and that's kind of one that's set in the world of the comics where they go about that. So this is that idea. Webweaver, who I'm assuming is supposed to be this universe's version of Spider-Man, and that's why Butcher talks about him. They 50K for these drugs for the heroin or whatever, and the dude, gives himself a heroin enema right up his spider hole. That's how they get the, MM's like, yo, I can never unsee that. That's may or may not be in the running for my quote of the episode, but that was like pure comic energy, like just how the comics are. Like the boys have a lot of adventures like that. It's more about trying to get dirt on the soups and a lot more little side missions and stuff like that. And there was a lot more like very specific soup drugs and shit like that. So I got heavy Diabolical vibes and comic vibes from that. And I mean that in the best way possible. I thought that was all awesome. Same thing with the fight with Butcher and Ezekiel. I'm only mad again that they showed the one part in the trailer with the liquid nitrogen and then Butcher, knocks the joint off. I'm like, man, I wish they hadn't shown that. It wasn't the end all be all, like the full climax of the scene, but still, I was like, oh, when he did it, I would have been way more surprised.
Now, am I wrong about how we've seen this character before in previous seasons with the stretchy arms and shit? Like,
Yeah,
it,
more
it
in
was a
season
thing.
one because he was Starlight's like the Capes for Christ guy, kind of like running all that. Remember we
Okay.
went to when her and Huey first started dating, and he got in to see him, and he got like baptized and everything. So back in season one, and I
That's
think he
right,
popped
yeah.
up a little bit in the interim, but he was there a couple episodes in season one. So definitely a dude we met before. Not Ezekiel Elliott, Ezekiel he's the Mr. Fantastic of this universe or whatever with the stretchy whatnot.
What do you guys think happened there? I mean, this was one of the mysteries, and if I missed it, again, don't roast me out there, internet universe, for being not as smart as you. You guys are all brilliant and very special, and you're loved. But this was an interesting one for me. Like, what exactly happened? And did you like the whole cut to black and then just see the aftermath kind of thing?
I'm 50-50 on that kind of thing, man. Like sometimes it's cool and you can kind of like build it in your own head as far as what happened. And it gives the viewer to kind of be a co-creator at that point. So in one aspect I do kind of like that. And not so much just in this scene, but or this particular scene, but it's happened even in other shows and like all over the universe there, man, where it's just kind of like you don't need, it doesn't show you that, but then you just, you know what happened after the fact, so you can kind of make, kind of get an idea of your own of as far as how it went down. I myself prefer a detailed, or some, I don't know, man. I'm 50-50 with it, man. Would I've liked to see in the actual thing? Yeah. But at the same point, the outcome and you kind of come up with it on your own. So it's like a choose your own adventure from back in the day almost.
Before I have a thought on that, but before I get to, let me just ask y'all. Start with Jamie G. Do you like the fact that we're still seeing Butcher or having hallucinations of Becca? I personally like it. And she's kind of the angel on his shoulder, so I am kind of there for it. What do you think, Jamie G?
I like it too. I thought it was really cool, the scene in the shower. We didn't really talk about it, but where he falls and cracks his face open and then, sees her. I like that now he's looking for her and expecting her. In a way, it's some sort of poetic justice. It's sweet, but it's also really sad. And it's an endearing quality wrapped around Butcher, who doesn't have a ton of those. I love him, but you know what I mean? He's just not the greatest. And he is, but he isn't. And I think this is a cool way to kind of soften him up a little bit.
Yeah, in an episode where they're trying to soften up Homelander a little bit too, they're doing it with Butcher. What do you think, Soup? You like seeing Becca?
Yeah, I'm not against it. I think I like the idea of some kind of some kind of driving force for Butcher, knowing that what he's going through and everything, and I think that in moments that he's having that are not so good, that's when he sees her, and it kind of brings him out of it. So I think it's a good thing, and we've seen similar things. We've seen
Right,
similar.
another common trope, really. It's not like we
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
seen this in
yeah,
other shows before, but I think they're deploying it well here.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely deployed.
and as far as Butcher himself, I think this is setting up the idea that if he was just the temp V, he wouldn't have done this. But the idea now that he put regular V in his system and it's somehow interacting with whatever else is going on, we're not predictions yet, but my headcanon is that, we see that the kind of worm things moving in. You mentioned the scene in the bathtub, you see something on his back, and I'm not sure if he shaves his back or has really big pores, but that's not really here or there. But I'm thinking that maybe it's like interacted, that dark mass that Homelander talked about, or maybe it's interacting with the V and it's like creating some kind of like third, maybe not a full on like Venom symbiote thing, but like something is like living inside Butcher, maybe.
Starting to
I
look
don't know.
like it. Something's
Yeah.
swirling around in
We
there.
saw that in Diabolical a little bit, right? Like I think they gave the guy gave the V to his wife who had cancer, and like the tumor like developed sentience or something like that. Is it? I'm just throwing it out there. There's a lot of ways they could go with that, and I think that would be kind of an interesting one, especially if you're going to keep Billy Butcher around for season 5.
I hope they do. God, it's
Yeah,
a
there's something there, man.
sad thought not having Butcher in this show.
Yeah, I don't really know that you can. I think the reason why it might end after 5 is because, like, who knows how long after season 4 5 is going to take place. So it might be right there. Not saying we get to see it then, but as far as timeline in the show goes, it might just kind of it might just be a couple of days for all we know, between seasons 4 and 5. But yeah, I do think he's necessary for the at least halfway through season 5 or something, and then maybe they could finish it out without him or something. But I'd like to see him all the way to the end.
Yeah, I think I think at least probably halfway through the final season, something like that. Maybe they could get away with it. As far as the other members of the boys, any thoughts on letting Butcher back in? Butcher came in at the end of episode 2, gave the whole thing, and MM was like too fucking little, too fucking late. And here he kind of just does it, but he looks at Frenchie, and it seems like Frenchie has agreed. So I'm assuming MM went to everyone else and asked if they were all right if Butcher came back, and they all gave it the cosign, and then they just kind of tell Annie. Did y'all have any problems with that, or with it happening off screen? Is that something that you would have wanted to see, Jamie G?
I think he needed it. He needed to bring him back. It was just weird that he was so like, I'm the boss, you listen to me kind of thing for the first 3 episodes. And then now he's back to kind of letting Butcher back to do his thing. Look, it didn't surprise me, but it was just kind of like, man, he made a pretty big deal in the first couple episodes that you didn't need him, you didn't want him, it's your show. But smart move. And maybe that's actually learning a little bit of leadership.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it was overdue anyway. I definitely saw it coming because, like, what are they gonna do? Is he's just gonna go rogue and fucking do the same shit anyway? So Butcher had to get back into the boys, and for whatever way that happened. But it was totally predictable. at least as far as I'm concerned. But I do like how the story played out and everything, and now here we are back together again. So the band's back together, and I like that. I guess.
Band's back together. They're getting ready to do a show. Well, except for Frenchie definitely got messed up. And then as soon as they showed Colin patching him up, I'm like, all right, he's just going to tell Colin. All right. And they'd set it up earlier with the scars so he could prove it. So Colin could be like, oh, you're lying to me or whatever. Maybe not self sabotage, but I just knew Frenchie was going to do that. And I'm just glad they did it halfway through the season, right? They didn't drag it out to the end or something like that. So not my favorite plot line, but I like that they got it out in the open and kind of dealt with it here. Any thoughts on that one, Jamie G? You cool with how the Frenchie plot worked out here?
Yeah, look, they've been teasing it. I thought it was pretty cool with the whole ankle scar thing. It needed to kind of happen. It was kind of time for Frenchie to just shit or get off the pot, dude. If it's eating you up that bad, just say something or do something, So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I actually like the way this played out. I mean, it was coming one way or another, but I like the way it happened, and mostly because of the ankle scars and stuff, because he told the story about it. And obviously, at first, he was like, oh, shit, yeah, I do have that. So he's trying to cover it up and everything, laying in bed talking about it or whatever. But then to reveal it that way, I think from Colin's aspect, how horrifying that must be. Think of yourself when you're talking to somebody like that, and then put yourself there, and then it's just that nightmare comes right back into you. You know what I mean? So I think that was really well played, man. I think it's something that might have got overlooked for most people, but it's something that like going in the shoes of that character or whatever, how terrifying that must have been, and how much of a fucking dick punch and just rip your heart out kind of like, I mean, it was very, very intense, and it was probably one of the more downplayed, super intense scenes in this episode. Of course, he reacted by beating the shit out of him, but I mean,
Yeah, but that might be more of like a growing punch than finding out someone cheated on you. I mean, that this person that
yeah,
you've been intimate with killed your family
right,
while
yeah.
you
Now
hid
it's more
under
on
a
a
bed. That's
yeah, now it's more on a horror show level, so.
that's unfathomable for an average person, really. Like that's just absolutely just wild, really. So
Yeah,
I'm just
dude.
glad they dealt with it.
Well, think about what the reveal must have done to him, like, the minute you see that, like, I mean, it's just things like
Yeah, I
that, so
thought the Colin actor actually played it really well. I thought so. I thought that was pretty cool. And I don't know that it's necessarily lawn darts, but I'm just saying the scars on Frenchie's leg looked a lot like my lawn darts.
yeah.
Yeah, you did have that lawn dart incident. At number 6 of the 7, we're going to break out our specials board. Before we ask Soup about the food, about the music, let's set the stage for him. Once upon a time, a wise man asked, what would you do for a Klondike bar? In this episode, the more relevant question is, what would you do to get to Flavortown?
Well,
Would you
man,
give someone a lobotomy? Soup, would you give someone a lobotomy to get to Flavor Town?
I don't know, because that is the weakest dildo I've ever seen. So depending on the tool, we'll see, and we'll get into that whole situation later on. But that's gnarly as fuck. What would I do to get to Flavor Town, man? I don't know. I would probably do some pretty crazy shit. I don't know that I would necessarily lobotomize somebody or stick anything in anybody's eyeball, because I have a thing with eyes. I don't like touching my own eyes. But I would do some crazy shit, but not too much crazy shit. I don't even know. I take that back, man. I think it would depend on the situation. I could probably do some pretty crazy shit, man.
Yeah, I shit would be off the board. Like I watched the first time I watched it because I didn't quite know what was coming, phrasing. But after that, even when I watched it every other time, I kind of just like looked down and looked at the subtitles because I couldn't watch that. And I'm a person who I take contacts in and out of my eyes every day. I've legitimately, probably touched my eyeball more times than I care to count in my life, and I still really couldn't watch it. And just shout out the actress. Her almost like sexual response when the deep was scraping her brain was wild.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
definitely pretty awesome, dude. And if you call that Flavor Town, I don't know. And I don't really know. Like, I wouldn't go there for fried pickles. I like a fried pickle, don't get me wrong. But if I'm going to Flavor Town, I'd want something with a little more oomph to it, man. Something a little more
Clams
jazz.
Casino? You want some Clams Casino?
Yeah,
I mean, Flavor Town is apparently delivery only now, so maybe that's where the legend is getting his Clams Casino. So, don't you can't show up at Flavor Town. It's a road show now. Jamie G, what do you think about the whole lobotomy situation?
the answer is no. I would not, but I did find this scene. Even when she wants to be brain dead, she's still manipulating people. So that's good. She did promise him, backdoor Flavortown, so kind of a big deal there. But yeah, I wouldn't do that to go to Flavortown, but I thought the scene was really cool. It was super
With the
graphic. It was
deep
hard to
wood, right?
watch.
You believe that the deep wood.
So where do I
Oh,
put
the
this
deep.
thing?
There's almost no hesitation. He thundergunned the shit out of that. Once she told him what the reward was, and again, this is up there for my either maybe my double damn or my quote of the episode, but did enjoy this one. And it gives you an idea, right? That at least being the super smart thing is a burden. That she just wants a break from all this. And like you said, she's going from the smartest person in the world to probably like someone who can still like, I don't know, get 18 like ace their SATs or something. It's not like she's getting dumb.
Well, you
She's
know
not
what? I
going all the way
kind
down
of
to
compare
Fred
it to,
Flintstone.
yeah, I kind of compare it to somebody getting home after a long day and just getting really baked because they want to get away, you know, and just lounge out, watch TV, and eat food. That kind of is what it seems like, you know. She munches out, she watches TV, so it's kind of like she's just ripping bong hits, but instead that doesn't work for her, so she has to lobotomize.
So what you're saying is the only way you can enjoy the second Transformers movie is on drugs. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, man, you know, you can't.
They
bring
did
out
have
the
robot
wrong
balls,
spirit, man.
racist
Let's
robots,
use
but also
Wesley
the robot who
Snipes.
had the big balls. Devastator. Oh, and I love Devastator from the original Transformers too. Still, Flavortown.
Flavortown, baby. Well, all right, Sue. The proverbial stage is set. We're all hungry. Tell us what's worth knowing about the food and music from episode 4, season 4, Wisdom of the Ages.
Well, I will say this, man. Again, I'm gonna go back to the fried pickles. Not super huge on those, man. I mean, I don't hate them. I love them. You know, dip them in ranch. I like sriracha ranch for my fried pickles if I'm gonna do fried pickles. So, as far as the music goes, dude, there's a couple good ones in here, man. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the ending and say Two Live Crew. Thank you for throwing back and bringing back some Two Live Crew. Not enough people remember them or listen to them or even think about them anymore, man. But face down, ass up, dude.
Charlie
Anyway, when I
Uncle
was a kid,
Luke and Hoochie
yeah,
Mama. Yeah, they were Friday.
yeah, dude, you know, I mean, me so horny, dude. I mean, well, I guess that was their one, you know, their one hit or whatever,
They had a
but
couple, dude. They were definitely Miami, like
that
a
would be the one people
certain.
remembered. But yeah, when I was younger, man, and you know, Two Live Crew broke a lot of barriers, and they were funny, they were super fucking dirty. It was something I was into, you know, and I definitely enjoyed listening to a lot of their shit back when I was younger because it was shocking. It was something that nobody else was doing. It was the Andrew Dice Clay of rap almost, what have you, you know. So I was into that, man. And so shout out to Live Through. I also really enjoyed the song at the end. They've been doing a good job over the end credits over the first couple of episodes here, man. Just because you're marinating on the episode, and then you got a song like Joe Cocker doing "Up Where We Belong," and it's just like such a like almost like it doesn't fit, but it does, and you're still
Because it
stewing
wasn't
what
even
just
Joe
happened.
Cocker. It was a Firecracker and the Deep's version of it. That was the best
Right.
part. It was the cover that, and actually the actors doing it too. I'm pretty sure. Like they didn't even bring in singers. I'm almost positive that was the actors doing it. Kind of like even if they might even be able to sing. I think Chase Crawford was in like High School Musical and all that shit or whatever. So like, but it's supposed to be like I think just a tiny bit kind of bad because it's probably a big karaoke song. I remember from ski school back in the day that joint was always on in like the chairlift for some reason going up the mountain.
That's why I rock the headphones, man. But anyway, yeah, man, good call on all of these. Like so far, the end credits, so even like you know with the musical number from the previous episode where it ended on the you know Vaught on Ice and that song, whatever it was, I can't think of it right off the top of my brain right now. But
Oh,
some
the War on
artists who do
Christmas
that.
joint, yeah, that was good. And one they brought it like in and out on the Sex Pistols or whatever. They're always
Yeah.
pretty good with
So
the
I think it
with the
just
tunes on
keeps
this.
you. It almost kept me just watching the credits, even though nothing's going on behind it. Just because like you're stewing on the episode and you're thinking about it, trying to take it all in, and then there's this song, and it just seems to fit and work no matter what it is. And you know, so far so good on those, man.
And let me
Where
just
the
ask you,
eagles
Heroin
fly.
Enema, band name or album name?
Oh, I think definitely it could go either way, honestly,
That's
but
why I'm asking. It could go
but
either way.
I'd almost rather see you know I think band
Metal,
name
definitely a
better, but it
metal
would have
band,
to
I
be.
feel.
Yeah, it would have to be like a metal punkish ska kind of band or something like that from
Well,
back in
maybe a
the
90s garage band in Seattle. I'd throw
yeah,
that out
yeah.
there.
Something that was like an offshoot of like Nine Inch Nails and like, you know,
Sunny
crossing
Day
with
Real
that, like
Estate. I don't know.
Pantera and fucking something else, you know.
Mushroom Head.
A band like Duct Tape Pussy or something, you know, something hardcore punk but also industrial or, you know. Heroin Enema, dude.
Well, guys, in case you didn't know, I am an important guy if I don't say so myself. After all, I'm sleeveless. It's not that surprising that I'm in charge of important things like finance, the law, fashion, corporate culture, all that good stuff. I'm sleeveless, but you know who wasn't sleeveless? Mother's Milk. He's got the wicked big pun tee. Pack and a mac. Big pun. Shout out Big Pun. Yeah, that was pretty cool. You don't see a Big Pun tee every day just walking down the street. Appreciated that. Huey again with the band. The band is kind of underrated, man. I like the band. Nice little rock jam on a nice sunny day, dude. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Outside of that, Firecracker's interesting little gun purse there, I thought was a pretty cool piece of fashion, if I don't say so myself.
Yeah, you just like bedazzling, much like I wanted to open up a bar called The Spot, like how the band is just the band. Like you open up a bar called The Bar or The Spot or something like that, where you own it. I'm going to the bar. I'm going to the spot. It's like, oh, what are you listening to? I'm listening to the band. I think it makes a lot of sense
Listen
on
to the
that
band
level.
at the bar, dude.
Ideally, yes, that's great cross promotional stuff. That's why you're our corporate guy. Let me just ask you if you had to pick one, MM's Big Pun T-shirt here or the Outcast T-shirt he was rocking previously episode. I really like this Big Pun one. I'm about to cop them both, to be honest with you, but I'm probably going to go with the Outcast because the black and gold looked that's super fucking sweet. What do you think?
The black and gold looked awesome. It really popped, but I'm going to stick with the Big Pun just because, for every one Big Pun tee, you probably got 5,000 Outcast tees. So I gotta give it to him. Mills, you're in charge of tracking down the references to the comics and coming up with the alternate episode titles. Tell me you got some good ones for us this week.
I got a couple things. I think the main thing here is, again, a little bit of spoilers for the comics, but it's not going to ruin anything for the show. But if you're going to read the comics someday, you don't want to be spoiled. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back in like 30 seconds. The way Homelander's birth is described here is exactly what happens to Billy Butcher's wife in the books. A baby is basically born out of her, got the laser eyes, everything like that, and then Butcher kills it. So the baby back are both dead. There is no Ryan Butcher, nothing like that. So that's exactly the way that birth happens in the comics, the way that Barbara describes Homelander's birth here. And as I mentioned before, in the comics, the boys are all kind of like V'd up. It's like about, I think, like a $20 million shot they all get. It's not like perfect V. There's various degrees of V in the books. And here we do see Butcher outside again with his crowbar. That is his signature weapon in the comics. As far as alternate episode titles, if we're going to go realistic to the way they do it, I have 3 for you, starting with the Flounder Pounder Special. Feel that would be a fun episode name. Number 2, Flavor Town. Also interesting. I think that would be good. And then number 3, probably my favorite of the bunch, the First Pebble Down the Mountain. That sounds very fitting for the way they title episodes. But if I was going to have fun with it, I would either go with Homelander Coming, which is a little bit of a combination of Homelander, Homecoming, and Just Coming. Shout out Squirt. And the Waste Paper Basketball Association, which is probably a better t-shirt than episode name, but I'd rock both.
I like Marty's mushroom shucking.
That's a good t-shirt.
It's a good t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't think an episode name. That's a solid t-shirt, though.
Got to shuck the old mushroom. Good job there, Mills. At number 7 of the 7, we have the award tour. It's trophy time. We're handing out some virtual hardware to recognize the best of wisdom of the ages. Starting with our favorite quote from the episode, Mills, open the envelope, tell us who won. But before that, announce the best sleeveless host on the internet.
That would be probably Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn. I believe he hosted the one of the early ESPYs there when he had the cutoff talks, just like he was rocking in the Amex commercial. So shout out to the Wild Thing. As far as favorite quote, I had a couple of top options here. I'm going to go with a random one that's not going to play as well if you just listen on the podcast, or it's going to work better on YouTube because part of it involves Kamiko typing on her phone.
Where are they after us? Fuck.
So Kamiko types on her phone. I kind of murdered a bunch of them. And Huey just says, fuck. I enjoyed that one very much. Kind of simple. Maybe I am a little bit of a sucker for Kimiko typing on the phone, the
It is
nonverbal
fun.
stuff, but I really super enjoyed that one because she was so, you have to be matter of fact, right? Like, oh, I kind of murdered a bunch of them. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Just nice and easy like that. It just made me really enjoy that one. Jamie G, slip a smooth one past the goalie for us.
Oh, I'll slip it right past the goalie here, dude. I got to go with Robert Singer.
It's January. The only thing I really want to hear is we found a way to kill the head popping bitch. Then this will be a quick meeting.
You forget with all the other stuff going on, that's kind of a big deal in terms of storyline. The president-elect knows and wants to kill the vice president. Like, so I thought that was really funny. And just the more Jim Beaver, the better, dude. I'm a big Jim Beaver guy.
Yeah, you would vote for Shelby for Harlan County Sheriff. I am
I
sure.
would. Jim's Beaver, dude.
Favorite
Well,
quote.
dude, after looking over this stuff and trying to analyze and think, like, man, what's the best quote? There's a lot of good ones in this one, man. I like a lot of the quotes between, I like a lot of deep quotes in this one. I like a lot of Homelander quotes in this one, man. So, I mean, just to go ahead and go with one, man, I'm gonna go with the Sage quote, and it's gonna be, "I find you repulsive in a way that's difficult to quantify," and I'm fucking amazing at quantifying. So,
I find you repulsive in a way that's difficult to quantify, and I'm fucking amazing at quantifying.
and that leads to a lot of deep quotes after that. So I'm gonna say that stems it, man. That's the one I'm gonna go with.
That makes me very happy because that was in my top three. That was one of the three I couldn't decide between. So you got it in there. So that's like a one timer. So I set you up and you just knocked it right past the goal.
Hey, shout out to bringing back the Flounder Pounder on this one. Because Herogasm was when we first were introduced to Flounder Pounder, and it was nice to see a little bit of a recap there on at least talking or saying the word Flounder Pounder.
Yeah, also, I'm sure they probably made some kind of like Aquaman porn called Flounder Pounder. So be careful with Google searches. Aquaman's been around for a while, man.
That whole scene with Kimiko, with her getting hit by a grenade launcher, split in half, and then it culminating with Huey having to like slice the dude's neck and the blood coming all over his throat. That was just a wild moment. You don't really see, you see Butcher doing crazy shit all the time. You see Homelander killing people. You see all that. You don't always see Huey doing something crazy, killing somebody, defending his life, and having their blood all over him and all over his face as he breathes through his nose. He did not open his mouth. Good call. Not open the mouth on that bloodshot. But yeah, I'm going there. Mills, what about you?
My shout out to Bob Odenkirk and David Cross will be Sage asking for a lobotomy from the deep and then his reaction. Just everything about that is great. Just the idea that she asked for a lobotomy and then how quickly he goes from not wanting to do it to just being down, ride or die for the cause. Soup, give us a double D here. Your double D.
Dude, I gotta say that was I could have taken either one of those two, man. They were on my list, but I'm gonna go.
Yeah, that even got its own place on the Amazon X-ray, I think, because I believe whoever it was wrote the first episode did pitch that one particular line. It literally made it, if you're watching on the app or whatever, they give you some bonus tidbits for that one. Yeah, Dick Blood was a very good line. And you're right, dude. That was like a psychologically intense scene. That was a double damn in a different way. Usually it's kind of just being surprised. That entire scene was just terrifying, and it kind of proved Homelander right because he said no one ever stepped up and said everything when he's doing all that shit to Marty. No one steps up. Like even when Barbara comes, she's just like put him out of his misery. You know what I mean? Like it kind of proves his point almost. Like it's terrifying on many levels. So damn.
Double down. Damn. The next stop on the award tour, we gotta hear it for the boy or girl. Our episode MVPs. Soup, who's taking your MVP trophy for Wisdom of the Ages?
I mean, I'm glad I get to go first this time because it's too hard not to take Homelander on this one, man. I mean, I could go over and over and over. We almost should have been like anybody but Homelander on this one. I mean, it's hard not to take him. So, for all the reasons that this episode was.
Well, I'll make it easier. I'm going to take Homelander if we want to do an anybody but Homelander, but I think Soup is correct in that he is the clear MVP. Jamie G, can we get a 3 or you got someone else?
We're getting a 3. Give me Homelander.
Okay, so it's secondary. Everybody's a secondary MVP then. Super non-Homelander. You sounded like did you have one handy?
Non-Homelander, man. I might give it to. I might have to. As much as I hate the character.
I hate that. Yeah, she was great here, dude. I would give it to her as well. She was honestly my second as well, Jamie G.
I'm gonna go Huey. I think he did the right thing, but it backfired a little bit. But he had an episode, dude. Huey had an episode.
I had A-Train at 3 for what it was worth. If we were doing like power rankings, I had A-Train up there too. But yeah, I think that those are all fair calls.
Well, guys, it's not Gen V. It's in the universe. Even though it's not Gen V, we're still going to hand out some grades. Mills, on a scale of 0 to 100 Vought coins, how many of those VCs, Vought coins, are you given to Wisdom of the Ages?
I'm going to go 93 coins. I feel very good about this one. Definitely up from the first 3. Not quite in the stratosphere towards a perfect episode, but still very good. Got to leave room for it to grow. How about yourself, Jamie G? I went 93. You going above or below? Or are you going to just a little bit of column A or column B or something?
I'm going to go right down the middle. I'm going exactly 93. I think that's a perfect score. 93 Vought coins. Get a little jingle in your pocket and pay up because, baby, this was a good episode. Soup?
We round up, so it's got to be a whole number. So that's 94 then. But you can go 94. That's fine. That's fine, dude. They're getting rid of coins in this economy. It costs more money to have coins, so we're just getting rid of the coins. It's just easier that way. Yeah, at least roll your own change. If you go to a Coinstar now, it's up to like 16 or 17 cents on the dollar that they take to like do it automatically. Yeah, if you're gonna actually bother to do the coins, get to spend $20 on the rolling machine.
Man, I remember
the other kind of rolling machine, the coin rolling machine.
Guys, before we move on to predictions, anything else on this episode, Wisdom of the Ages, that you want to mention?
It was definitely a fun one. I do have to say that the episode worked really hard to try to get us to relate to Annie, to Starlight. But the most relatable part really wasn't the thing about her trying to save people when she was young, or even the abortion thing. It was when she gave her credit card to Colin. She was like, yo, this thing's only almost max. Please be careful with it. That was like incredibly relatable.
Yeah.
One of the most relatable moments.
Go easy on the room service, bro. Meaning don't even get room service.
I don't even know what room service costs now. God, I know what grocery store costs. I know what Taco Bell costs now. I can't even imagine the room service.
Ooh, taco.
Yeah, great episode. Definitely a lot of fun. You could, poke a few holes in it or whatever, but for the most part, definitely step up from the first 3. Super excited.
Break out your balls. I'm sorry, your crystal balls, your magic 8 balls. Read the tea leaves, call Frenchie, do whatever you need to do to elevate your mind. Stimulate your mind, Craig, because it's time for predictions. Mills, lead us off with a prediction for episode 5 and or the rest of the season. Only 4 episodes left. That's crazy.
I hate that. I'll give you the easy one. Everything that we haven't gotten from the trailer so far, we're getting in the next episode. That means the V'd up animals and the Gen V cameos with Sam and Kate. We saw them teased in a Chiron, in a graphic for the V52 or the big vault thing, like the Disney thing that's going on. So I'm saying that we're getting all of that in episode 5. Soup, you got one for us? Give us a prediction either for 5 or the rest of the season.
Mills, I'll give you one here, man. I'm going to say that Huey's mom she's got a dark past that he doesn't know about. And in the end, by the end of this season, Huey's going to have to kill his mom. It was so weird because we thought maybe he was going to have to kill his dad and let his dad die. But actually, he's going to have to kill his mom.
I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, maybe there's something where his dad and his mom like kill each other. Like, ooh, there's a lot that could happen because we have no idea. I like that one a lot. Honestly, both of y'all, where do you think Huey's dad getting the V is going to go? I think that I'm incredibly interested about. There's no analog for this in the comics that I remember. Soup, what do you think about that one? Ooh, that's wild. Jamie G, any thoughts on Huey Campbell Sr. getting the V? Where do you think that goes?
I think it goes south. I think it's going to be a bad thing. I think it will bring him back to life, but I think there'll be some complications from it. And I think it's going to twist and turn the moral compass of what's right and wrong for Huey even further.
Ooh, okay. So I'm going to try to tie this one into a couple of different things. Back in season 2, we had Stormfront. Remember, like we found Lamplighter and they were in the joint. I don't remember if it was Red River or the other joint, but what they were trying to do was develop good V. That anytime you gave it to a regular person of any age, boom, you get a solid soup. Because before, that's why they gave V to kids, because it always didn't work. Now they're playing a little bit fast and loose with the narrative here, but I wonder, did they actually perfect that? Because then if they did, that means Huey's dad might be okay. If they didn't, who knows what could happen? And it's also interesting that when A Train stole it, there were other empty things, right? He said Homelander had every dose, but this show has to consider that kind of thing and take into account those details. When he goes to get that vial, there's other empty slots. So I wonder. Yeah, well, if you're watching on YouTube, we will recount the holes, but I think that is interesting, right? So I'm kind of trying to go that way around. What do you think, Soup? Do you think they actually perfected the V, or do you think maybe he got possibly like a who knows what happens kind of dose? Right, because Homelander doesn't care. Like he just gave it to everyone who wanted to create the super terrorists. He just did it by mass quantity. He didn't like whatever. You got to break a couple eggs to make an omelet kind of deal. I think. Yeah, right. We're all kind of extra. So, in, Jamie G, do you think Huey's dad survives the season? If
Yes.
his mom's going out, then his dad does. Kind of, it's one or the other. I think that kind of makes sense. I'd like to say they live happily ever after, but I think I'll agree with you that either one of his mom or his dad goes by the end of the season, and maybe he would even have to kill one of them. Maybe even his dad now, like if Soup mentioned, like it kind of goes south with it. Do you think there's any chance that this plot, like his dad now being V'd up, interacts with the Gen V plot with the Soup virus? Because now maybe Huey's dad could be vulnerable to the virus or something. I don't know if that would interact with the temp fee. Maybe that would make sense why they gave it to Butcher too, besides the cure thing, to make that more of a play. Because if they're bringing the Gen V characters in, we already heard about this in the trailer. We know that Butcher knows about it. So, any thoughts on how the Gen V virus is going to play in, Soup? Right. Yeah. The good old can. What do you think, Jamie G? Anyway, that the Gen V Soup virus ties into kind of the plot here with like Butcher taking V, Huey's dad taking V, that kind of thing?
Yes. I think it does. I think it's long been, a thought that that's what's going to kind of bleed these two worlds together. And it showed a little bit on, Gen V with Homelander coming in at the end there, and it bleeding together a little bit with OG Ashley and them, but and Newman. But I think it's gonna. I think that plot line's not going away. There's just so much other stuff happening. You kind of forget about it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There is a lot of stuff happening. How about Robert Singer, man? Yeah, do you think he's going to make it through the season alive and or be elected president? I think I'm going no and no, but I'm not 100% sure. What do you think, man? Is he going to live through the season and or will he be elected president? Or, officially inaugurated, I should say. JBG, Robert Singer.
I think he does, just because I don't think you see Newman Soup as president until next season. But I do think he makes it through the season.
All right. How about A Train? Do you think he gets exposed as the mole? Right back to you, Jamie G.
I think he does, and I think it causes him to join the boys full time.
Ooh, interesting. Soup. You called this one preseason. One of your predictions, I believe, was A Train. Maybe kind of getting flipped here. How do you think this is going to play out? I mean, I'll throw this out there. Ashley caught A Train up in Homelander's apartment. I think somebody also had that on the predictions. Any chance that Ashley comes over, or maybe she covers for A Train or something like that, or she kind of gets involved in this? Because right now it seems like she's the odd woman out at Vaughn.
She's been kind of pushed to the side here from a corporate standpoint. She's really just the
She's leaving
cheerleader, right?
floaters in Homelander's toilet. I mean, she is frustrated. Let's say that. I think that's a fair statement. And it seems kind of obvious now, but what do you think will Sage's basic, I shouldn't call it a fetish or whatever, but the idea that she wants to be lobotomized, will that be how she eventually gets taken down or whatever? 'Cause that seems to be her weakness, other than being, weak and fleshy like a regular human. Jamie G, let me ask you, is it more likely that the Deep kills Sage, helps the boys, or bangs Firecracker? You think about the Super. I'm asking you next. What do you think?
Kill Sage.
See, I think he could get flipped by the boys to kill Sage, so I'll kind of double that. But he can also bang Firecracker. I think all three are in play, and like they're not mutually exclusive. I feel. What do you think, Sue? So, do you think that the Deep breaks up with the fish, with Ambrosius, with the octopus, or does he try to maybe bring Sage in on it? I could see it going either way. The proverbial cake can eat it too. Maybe that's the real Flavor Town. Flavor Town, downtown, under the sea, kind of. Yeah, a little bit of yeah. That's a little mermaid, and I guess that's anything on Frenchie. It does seem like he is in a very low place right now. He's physically beaten. He told Colin the thing. Colin says, if he ever comes around again, he's gonna kill him, that kind of thing. Where does Frenchie go from here? Does
The only thing there is you hope that um, Kimiko and him rekindle. There's a Kimiko rekindle, and he helps her get through this situation with, I keep wanting to call her Scarface, but the girl with the face scar. And I think that's a hopefully a Kimiko rekindle.
Kimiko rekindle and Kokomo? Yeah, I think you get there faster than you take it slow. That's where we want to go, to get away from it all. And I think that's basically it. That brings us to episode 5, which is titled Beware of the Jabberwock, my son, which is extremely butcher, extremely fun, and I believe a reference to the comics, if I remember correctly. It's directed by Shanna Stein, who isn't directed an episode of The Boys yet, but she did direct episode 7 of Gen V, titled Sick. I remember liking that one, the penultimate episode there. I'm feeling the title. I think this is some good stuff, maybe some great stuff, possibly some Dylon level fire next week. Let's just put it that way.
Thank you guys for checking out another episode of Compound B. We are Compound B. I am James G. Esquire the fifth. Make sure you drop a comment below. Tell us your favorite moment of this. What did you think of this episode? Give me a prediction. I want one prediction. Drop a comment, or better yet, make like A-Train and supersonic bolt into our DMs. Mills will let you know how to do it. Get in there and we'll respond back.
Yeah, you definitely have to get out of like the 3-point stance to give A-Train credit. Like he does like the whole, like he always gets in the very specific position before he takes off. And it's good to remember stuff like that. It's just like remembering the flaps, follow, like, and please subscribe to Compound B, presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. It's just that simple. If you had fun, remember the thumb. You can find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff, at Compound B Pod. We are right there on the web, dudeswatchstuff.com. We keep it easy to remember, just like those flaps I've already mentioned. And if you haven't figured it out by now, I am Magnum Mills here with the Soupdeucer and Jamie G. Thanks a lot for checking out the Compound B, and we'll be back next time for episode 5, which doesn't sound as cool as episode 3, but it would have sounded cooler if it was that. Trust me.
And for the record, the B in Compound B stands for fuck.